Hey all, so this is War 10 against Salty. Big one for us. Salty is obviously a very, very good alliance, normally places ahead of us. But for those who don't know, last two times we've faced them, I think was a 4-4 tie and a 3-3 tie, and we lost both on time. And I think the one before that we may have lost by a single attack bonus. I might have those out of order, something like that. But this is one we badly want to win, okay? um, so I have a lot of fights here, and honestly, some of them scare me. We'll kind of get to that as we go, but thankfully this is not one of them that scares me. I'm fully expecting to mess up a special one dex right there. That I always do this. It's not a hard dex, but it's one that I mess up more than some easier decks or some harder dexes. I'm also fully expecting to get stunned at least once. That is how it. Yep, there it is. That's how it works with Doom here, especially if you mess up the special one evade. Yep, there it is again. So now I have to back off, at least to not stay close after. There it is again, but thankfully I was on cooldown. Yeah, this is not a great fight. I knew that, but I also know Photon can handle it. We just stayed on it. We're mindful of our cooldowns and took him down. Not particularly proud of that one. I was probably underestimating it lightly. But then we go to this Kitty Pryde fight, which I've taken several times this season, including with Shocker. As with most tactic fights, as I've reiterated a couple times now, the most important thing is to get the intercept early. So we got it right away, and we are going to refresh it just in case she decides to play. She doesn't. She throws the special one immediately. So that's nice. It doesn't give her time to build prowess. Now we're going to try and re-up it, because we do have a little bit left there. But that doesn't really make me comfortable. But at this point, since she didn't throw it, I'm not going to try and get another taunt. I am just going to push to the special 2. I'm going to stick to my shortened combos, and I'm going to push to the special 2 because I know it will close things out. And that is the kind of learn when to commit thing that I was talking about in my previous video. And it's also what I failed to do when I did die to this fight earlier this season. I also just failed to go for an intercept early in that earlier death. But I still could have recovered it if I had better committed to closing it out. And so this time, you saw me do it right, because once I had seen her get over a bar and I knew my window to safely get an intercept was gone, I locked it down and pushed to my cash out. That's the kind of decision point you need to be making with this tactic. Now here, basically I'm just going to assume that thing is going to be at full health until I get to my special 2. Until I get the sabotage up, thing is at full health. We just assume that, right? We're not worried about doing any damage until then. We know that between our ability accuracy reduction and our bleeds, we're not worried about rock stacks on the way up. We know how to do the full dex of both specials. Here we go. There it is. The root is not a problem. But now we have taken enough time that we're starting to get close, and so this is where I kind of need to make the decision, right? I punished that heavy, but that means I need to punish another one and keep this card on me right before I throw the special 2 there. That was important. Now the alternative would have been to not apply the sabotage with the special 2, and instead to just make sure that my most recent calling card swap had been landing a heavy so that the card was on thing, so that I just would have automatically applied it. That's what you need to keep in mind as the timer starts running down. I'm not going to lie, that was closer than I would have liked. But the thing to remember with this fight is that you close out the fight incredibly quickly once you get the sabotage up. And so if I had messed that up and happened to get the vicious, I just would have gone through the cycle again, right? That's the important part to remember. I just would have waited out the vicious, held on to my 2 bars of power if I had missed, or built back up to them if I had accidentally thrown it going for it, and then just gotten it later. That fight wasn't really one where I worried about it going on too long and escalating, unlike some other tactic fights, and so I was fine with that. Now, thing to note here, Bishop is not tactic, but it's still nice to have the steadfast just in case something else goes on. It is also very nice to have the taunt because that means that we hit harder, right? Or sorry, not that we hit harder. That means he doesn't hit as hard because taunt always has a weakness built in. The potency of the weakness in this particular taunt is 30%, but that means that our opponent is just always at 70% of their modified attack, right? And so having that taunt up, even in non-tactic fights, means I take less chip damage, means I use fewer potions, means that if I mess up, I'm more okay. So it's still worth going for, in my opinion, even though going for an intercept is potentially an opportunity to yourself get intercepted. Just want to call that out. I will also say, if I felt 110% confident on Bishop Special 2 decks, I wouldn't have bothered going for the taunt. But I'm not. I normally block the first hit of it when I'm using a tech champion, and I know I can, as I did there. And so that's the other reason to get the taunt. This Sasquatch fight, I honestly can't remember if I've taken it yet this season. I probably have. I took it so many times during Decay. And it is easier now, right? Because you don't need to worry about your dex buff expiring when you hit into the opponent and him going unstoppable. That was the risk. Now it's just a really big, chunky Sasquatch that interrupts your tempo by going into Wrath of Tanarak, that has protection that stacks with the node's protection, and heals towards the end. He is very annoying, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. We're going to be here for a while, though. And that is one of the reasons I throw the Special 3 instead of trying to intercept with the Special 2, because this gives me just a little bit of regen, since I did have 20 charges when I went into it. I immediately need that regen because he's in Wrath of Tanarak and has extra block pen. You see how that does help us here. The other thing it's going to do is build up our maximum charges for next time we go into pure light form, just in case we want those extra Furies. It allows us to concentrate our damage cash outs a little bit more on this node, where having those damage windows is so important. So you see we are starting to make some progress. He is down to almost half health now. We have 3.5 minutes left. This is going completely fine. We're not really worried about the healing because when he's not debuff immune, Photon strips it off of him immediately with the 80% Petrify plus basically any points in Despair. So we're not really worried about the fight slowing down too much as we get there. We just want to get through these Wrath phases with minimal health loss. We want to make sure that he doesn't gain too many prowess, and we also want to gain as many of our electromagnetic charges before we knock him down as possible, so that we don't basically feel like we need to hit him because we've removed protection during times when we can't really do much damage, right? Because we're not in pure light form. So you saw me there go into it early and then immediately knock him down. I used the Untouchable after the Special 2 to get a free punish of the Special 1 there without having to do anything fancy. Get a punish of the Special 2 here. This is going well. It has slowed down a lot because remember, the protection from the node does stack with his own protection from his rage stacks, and that is why we got all the way down to 0 damage there. But that's okay. Now he's in Wrath, protection is off, but it'll go back down soon. And while he's in Wrath, or immediately after, he doesn't have much of his own protection, and we can actually do some damage. I hit in here after the heavy because his prowess is starting to climb, and I just don't want to get one shot if I'm wrong, is basically what that comes down to. You see me building some more here. I throw the Special 2 here to burn power. It does knock him down. It does slow us a bit, but that's okay. I'm just continuing to hit him, backing him up. Now that the immunity is gone, see how we immediately... Oh, you know what? I forgot about that. There has been a problem with him not removing his regens. that explains why these fights have taken a little bit longer. Okay, I'm gonna chase down that bug again tomorrow when I get to work tomorrow. That's not something I normally say in these videos. It should have stripped off his regen. But as you can see, this is taking a bit longer than I had expected, but it is still going quite well. We are into Pure Light form now with 6 of our own Furies plus 7, plus a 7th from the node from having protection down. I do go for a cheeky punish of the special 2 there, even though it's very risky. He could have hit me. I block immediately, and he does go for a heavy. That was honestly a little bit lucky. Probably shouldn't have done that. But it did help us keep our Furies for that much longer, and we close it out. I'll be honest, I hate this fight. I know that there are other really good counters for it. This is the one that keeps being easiest to path. I know I can take it, and so I continue to take it. So, nobody tell me who the better options are. I know. I don't like that either. But you saw how much health I came through with. It's pretty safe. We move on to Sauron here. And again, as with tactic fights, you're just going to try and get the taunt from the intercept right away. We do. We are building significantly faster because of the prowess here. And I make a mistake. No, I think I'm thinking of a different war. Yeah, we just go straight for the special 1 there. We are supercharged right now. I'm just baiting a heavy. He throws a special. Thankfully, we still had the taunt up, or that could have been a little painful. And now we cash out with the special 2, and it is going to do so much more than we need it to. Sometimes these fights are nerve-wracking because I'm not confident that Shocker actually is going to finish the fight the way I need him to. But sometimes it's also very relieving. You get to the special 2, you throw it, and there's just this big exhale because you know, now we're good. Speaking of scary fights, we now have this Titania. I am taking this again with Shocker. I've taken this before. It was a little tricky because she didn't play into an intercept at all. So I am aware of that possibility again. I am also trying to remember that there is something with the defense tactic right now where, regardless of who you're attacking with, you can parry unblockables as long as it's that well-timed block. Now there you'll see something that I think pretty obviously surprised me. I forgot about how Daunted was going to boost the hazard shift debuffs during her special animations. And so some of that was obviously block damage. That wasn't fun, right? But some of that damage was just how many freaking incinerates I allowed her to get on me before she threw her special. And so I gave up a very large chunk of my health. I did not need to give up. That was something I could have told you would happen, but I just wasn't thinking about it at the time, and so made a bit of a tactical mistake. Thankfully, was able to salvage it, was able to dodge enough hits of her specials so that the block damage didn't take me down to 0, and then I was able to close it out. Terrifying, terrifying fight, but one that I survived, and therefore is a learning moment and not a tragedy. I can deal with that. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm really enjoying this tactic as things have stabilized out. I know a large part of it is having a very good tactic attacker. A lot of the people I know who are most enjoying it have very good tactic attackers, and so if you are not, and you don't, and you are planning to continue to play with this next season, I would recommend you do what you can to remedy that in the off-season. I am planning on putting out a new iteration of my Essential Alliance War Attackers video. It will be focusing pretty heavily on the tactic because I think that that is just such an important part of who you rank for war these days. I'll touch on the other things, but yeah, if you are struggling with who to rank up for the tactic, who's good, keep an eye out for that sometime in the next week or two. And until then, Thank you so much for watching, and take care.